I've been a God of War fan since I was a literal boy. Um, Back on the PS2 when I was a kid, my sister's boyfriend, who is now my brother-in-law, he lent me God of War 2, and it blew away my mind as a kid. I mean, that fight where Kratos fought the statue, that lived in my head rent free for the longest time. Unfortunately, being a kid with not much patience, I could never figure out how to solve the puzzle to get to the next area, when you get to the island. But it still left a lasting impact on me. It got me to the point where I would go to my local public library just to check out and read Greek mythology books like the Odyssey and some other Greek stories like Hades kidnapping Persephone. And the thing about God of War, the Greek games, is that they really did make you feel like you're in a Greek fantasy. I mean, that depiction of Zeus was perfect, and Kratos was such a cool character. And then eventually, God of War 3 came out, and yeah, I didn't have a PS3. My family or my mom, she couldn't afford it. But my brother-in-law, I would go to his place whenever I could and stay the night. And every time I stood the night there, he would let me play God of War 3 and beat it because he knew that at home I didn't have the game. And as a kid, God of War 3 was the best game of all time. And you might be wondering, well, wait, why would you be playing an M-rated game as a kid? Well, well, my mom, she was cool with me playing and watching adult cartoons or video games so long as I didn't, say any crazy stuff in real life or, do anything violent. She was cool like that. Um, because the thing about other parents, especially at the time, there would be this stupid ass channel blocker shit where you could just pretty more parents would pretty much just censor certain shows or channels from their kids. And I always hated that. Like, I would spend the night at a friend's place, and then they would have that channel blocker or that video game timer thing. And God, I don't know if kids still do that today, but Jesus, stop! I hate censorship. Anyway, uh, yeah, God of War 3, that was the best game ever as a kid. And yeah, for the longest time, I would be a huge God of War fan because God of War, it was the first M-rated game I ever played that wasn't Grand Theft Auto 3 or any Grand Theft Auto game at all, and it left a big lasting impact on me. And then the Norse God of War games came out. Now, with the 2018 game, I didn't immediately buy it because one, I wasn't in the army yet, so I didn't even have a source of income. But after I got in the army, I decided to get God of War 2018. I was hesitant at first because the thing is, I heard that God of War 2018 ends on a cliffhanger, and I'm not a big fan of games that end on the cliffhanger or any media in general like that. But I played God of War 2018, and it actually blew my mind with how well written it was. And yeah, the gameplay is fun too. And it felt like a reasonable progression for Kratos' character because in the Greek God of War games, Kratos literally had nothing to lose. I mean, the last thing he cherished was his Spartan army. But even then, in God of War 3, Kratos unintentionally kills his Spartan army when he kills Poseidon. That causes a massive flood. And even then, after killing his Spartan army, Kratos doesn't really seem to care, you know? Because by God of War 3, Kratos especially had nothing to lose at all. And he was just out there for pure revenge. But with God of War 2018, or the Norse God of War game, it made sense for Kratos to be more introverted and more mature because now he actually has something to risk his life for, his son. And I won't lie, Atreus is one of the more annoying characters I've seen in a video game. A common excuse for Atreus's behavior is that, well, he's just a kid. What do you expect? The thing is, though, I've seen less annoying kids in video games. And when I was a kid, I didn't act like Atreus at all. For example, right, when it comes to a less annoying a child character, Ellie from The Last of Us, she's perfect. She has her moments where she can be a little whiny, but it's not too much like it is with Atreus. And plus, her acting is way better than Atreus's anyway. But he Atreus was fine in God of War 2018. I don't hate him. Hate him. I just think he's okay. And then God of War Ragnarok came out, and it's so funny. Ragnarok is longer than the 2018 game, but it feels way more rushed story wise. And my biggest problem with God of War Ragnarok are the puzzles, because characters will just flat out give away the answer to a puzzle. And the writing, a lot of the writing and dialogue in God of War Ragnarok feels like, a modern MCU movie. It even has those MCU moments where one of the characters is this random side character in God of War Ragnarok who decides to just have a main character moment and decides to sacrifice himself by throwing himself off the boat or something like that, and it's treated as like a serious, sad moment. And I'm like, who is this guy? He barely has any screen time, and he has no character development. If you play the game, you know who I'm talking about. Freya's brother also, I feel like he suffers the most from the modern dialogue. Like, he has so many moments in God of War Ragnarok where he's like, is anybody else going to see that? Or, he's right behind me. He doesn't say that. He doesn't use the right behind me moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were thinking about implementing that. But overall, God of War Ragnarok, I thought it was fine. Definitely inferior compared to the 2018 game, at least from a story point of view. And Atreus, he was less annoying in God of War Ragnarok because he had matured. But man, playing as Atreus, that was like the worst part of Ragnarok. First of all, his dialogue with him and Angerboda, that just felt like some millennial Zoomer type nonsense right there. And then his dialogue with Thor's daughter, that also felt a little bit too modernized, and I just hate it. Not to mention, Atreus' gameplay is definitely not as good as Kratos, because with Atreus, all he really does is just point and shoot his arrow. His melee attacks are a lot more limited, and the moments where he can turn into a wolf and just instant kill stuff, is you gotta like build that up in a meter or something. And I was just very disappointed that Kratos, it wasn't just 100% Kratos. Like 30% of the game is playing as Atreus. And then, but hey, God of War Ragnarok, it came to a rushed conclusion. And now we got God of War Laufey coming out. And I already see some red flags with God of War Laufey. It's not that she's a woman or playing as a female character in God of War. No, the issue with God of War Laufey is that it has a modern dialogue, the characters talking to themselves, explaining where to go and what to do next. Why can't it be like Batman Arkham Asylum? This game isn't constantly talking, thank God. And yeah, and plus the combat in God of War Laufey, it's an M-rated game, but it looks too PG in my opinion. Like, there's no blood or gore. And I just have a feeling that God of War Laufey is just going to be a very lame game. Now, a lot of God of War Laufey, you know, well, I worded this wrong, sorry. But God of War Laufey has a lot of defenders online, and these defenders will usually retract to saying, hey, if you don't like this game, you're sexist, you hate women, yada, yada, yada. And if you go around saying this, you are a very stupid, insecure person who has never faced real life sexism in your entire life. People are not automatically sexist because they don't care about a AAA video game. Like, oh no, people are making fun of a AAA multi-billion-dollar game company. Yeah, you're totally sexist. Like, that's the mindset some of these people I've seen online have. And you can mention other female characters that you like Samus from Metroid or Bayonetta, and these people will be like, "Oh, well, you're still sexist anyway for not liking God of War Laufey." Like, I'm sorry, but yeah, no, I'm not sorry at all. If you go around saying this, calling people sexist for not enjoying a AAA Sony game, you're just kind of retarded in my opinion. And yeah, that's all I really just wanted to say, because you're just so sheltered that you pretty much had to just call people sexist for having a different opinion from you over a freaking video game, for Christ's sakes. And I have a feeling God of War Laufey, what's going to happen is going to be like the mixtape situation. It's going to get a bunch of 10 out of 10 scores or whatever. Critics and journalists will call it brave, and then, the actual fans will actually criticize the game. Or, there'll also be fans who will just blindly defend it as well. For a while, I was actually blindly defending God of War Ragnarok because I was in denial of how not so good it was compared to other God of War games. But now I pretty much accept the fact that God of War Ragnarok isn't that great.